Rosterpression! Every year, as is tradition in Counter-Strike, when we have a break between events, that's when everyone makes the roster changes. Typically, you can rely on every off-season. There's going to be some big names, big moves, big money being spent. It's all going to be, oh, wow, I can't believe it. Simple and Zywu have teamed up and blah, blah, blah. This off-season was trash. I mean, the moves that were made, I think I said last Rostermania, it was the most lackluster Rostermania of all time in Counter-Strike history. This one now takes the cake. It's unbelievable. Like, just how little ambition was shown in a lot of these transfers. And so let's go through all of the transfers. It's sort of in historical order. And I'll rate them with the thumbs up and thumbs down, as is tradition. And, you know, the scale goes from, you know, Overwatch fart noise to 2 thumbs up, I think, is the traditional scale. It's Griff's job as well, by the way, to put in the Overwatch fart noise. He literally gets employed to do that, so look at him. Let's start with this. This was a bit, I thought this came out of left field. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but Nip, towards the end of last year, said we're benching Tag. Now, Tag, or Price Tag, as he's known in the scene, he's had a strange and bewildering career for me, you know. Was that heroic, came into Astralis during the online era, played really well, punched above his weight. He was, like, really good for them, probably one of the better players at that time. Ended up in Cloud9, where Cloud9 probably got finessed for an absolutely ridiculous deal. Then obviously leaves Cloud9. I feel like I'm missing a team out there. Remind me, was it Complexity he went to? No, I can't even remember. I'm not like Thorin. I don't have a brain. Someone in the chat will tell me. It was Complexity. All right, good, yeah. And then went to Nip. During this time, he's never played in a consistent position. He's been an entry fragger, he's been an anchor, he's been a fucking Orpha, and here he was in Nip, where he was finding himself in Alexi B's team, playing in this team where Rez was Orping, even though Tag has done that. And I was like, I couldn't figure it out. But regardless of that, I just didn't think he was doing anything particularly wrong, like, or bad in the team. You can look at his, like, rating, it's just above 1. You know, you can see he wasn't playing particularly great, but Nip's gone through this, like, huge transition, you know, bringing in Alexi B, Hampus going back to being a player, obviously Brolan in there as the star player, Rez has been on the AWP, now Rez isn't going to be on the AWP when we get to the head trick signing, but, yeah, Tag gone, like, just cruelly cut, surplus to requirements again. And you can see in his statement it said a bumpy road, but I'm standing here at the end proud of what we've accomplished. I will be taking my time to properly gauge what's next for me. And I don't know what is next for Price Tag. It's like, in terms of financial reward, he's had an insane career, right? I think he's probably, like, got a serious bag out of everything that, you know, he's done in terms of his playing career. I know he got the bag at Cloud9. I mean, because Cloud9 made all that shit public. Astralis doing their fuckery, leaking stuff to the media. Yeah, he's the most expensive player of all time. Can Cloud9 stipulate anything? Nope, that's against the terms. Brilliant. So, I don't know, but the problem I'll say is when you're a player like this, like, I think he's unbelievably versatile. I still think he's one of the most versatile players in World Counter-Strike. He's game for anything, and he can do a bit of everything competently. I just wonder, like, if somehow he's going to slip through the cracks and not get picked up by a serious team now, because, you know, he's had failure after failure after failure after failure, essentially. He's been deemed to be the guy you get rid of on almost every opportunity, and not really had any continuity in his career. So it's weird. It's weird. He's in a weird spot. But with the head trick move, which we'll talk about, there'll be a thumb up there. I'm not going to say this is an Overwatch fart noise to bench him, because it's probably the right thing to do if you want to go out and get a designated Orpha. And I agree, by the way, if you're NIP, wasting Rez on the AWP was insanity. And I think anybody who watched Rez on the AWP was, like, underwhelmed, put it that way. So, I don't know. He's obviously being told that he can explore his options. I'm going to wager Nip have him on a fucking unreal contract with an unreal buyout. So there's fuck knows. I just think Nip are a shit org when it comes to player treatment. So I don't know. But I wish Esatag all the best. I just don't think you're going to see him at a top team when he moves. But, you know, this is right for Nip. Not so much for Esatag. So, you know, maybe thumb down for him in his career. But not an Overwatch fart noise, that's for sure. Like, we'll see where he ends up next. Also, not really big news, but get your handkerchiefs out and dab your eyes, right? I know everyone, no, Gage retired, no. Like, it's just like, I don't know, man. It's like, he's probably a lovely guy, but, you know, didn't ever really do anything. And it was like, I really feel sorry for GSTK having to write up a tribute to a player who did nothing in their career, retiring. Just, you know, did nothing, but played at some pretty notable organisations. And so it's like, imagine it. Like, look, he had a go. He did have a go. The Danish rifle, CSGO, after spending over 6 years competing, right? Not even a long time. During which time he represented notable organisations such as Optic North and Big. So he played in North, one of the biggest wastes of money ever, right? He played in Big, right? Who brought him in because apparently he speaks German. Like, just ridiculous, isn't it? And then Optic, obviously, but he went to Optic when he was there when they had config and that. So anyway, look what he's had to say, GSTK. When he went to Optic, the Dane put up a 1.00 rating in his 6-month tenure with the squad. The Danish outfit reaching its peak when they qualified for the challenger stage of the Face It in London. It's like, fuck me. You just, oh God, there's got to be some gold down here. There's got to be. He must have done something at some fucking point. Like, oh, terrible. And look, mate, it goes on and on. The Dane publicly showcased his ability to speak German. Ausgezeichnet, but struggled to find his footing whilst working with Johan Tabson of Wodars and company, being moved to the bench in December 2021 after just 76 maps played and a modest 0.96 rating to his name. And you can see here, he said, 2022 is coming to an end and it is time for me to announce my departure from the CS industry. What a ride and journey it's been. Memories I will always have to cherish and be grateful for. So I'm not going to hate on him. I'm not going to hate on him because, look, not everyone gets to be a winner. In fact, you know, if esports wasn't so garbage, you would sort of see more players like this kind of come and play for like 3, 4, 5 years and then not make the grade and then bow out graciously, like, and say, I tried, you know, like, think about the NFL, you know, average career less than 4 years, you know? Not everyone gets to be the fucking stud that wins all the trophies, gets the Super Bowl rings, you know? It would make a mockery of the sport if it was like that. But what we do in esports is, because there's so much arse-licking that goes on, sorry, to showcase my German, arschlecken. That's actually not, I don't think leck is lick, but whatever. You get the point. It's a joke. You know, there's so much arse-licking that goes on in the fucking scene. Like, mediocre talent, constant. It was correct, was it? There you go, not bad. Mediocre talent gets recycled, you know? And it's about who you know. And so, you know, bad players, like players who aren't at a professional standard, constantly get recycled way beyond they should. And suddenly, you're talking about someone like Yugi with like a fucking 10-year career or something. And it's like, that shouldn't happen in a functional esport. In an esport that, you know, if it's popular and you've got all this talent coming through, there should never be an excuse to essentially like allow mediocre talent to cling on for this, you know, robbing checks and salaries, and not small ones, by the way, because remember the way it works in teams. If you're in a 5, that's good, even if you're the shit player. The way it works in esports is, if you get signed, everyone gets the same salary. If you get signed as a 5, you know, because players are like, well, I want the same as him. Yeah, but you're shit. Yeah, but I want the same as him. Yeah, but you're shit. Well, it's 5 on your thing. All right, guess I've got to pay you 20 grand a month then, do I? So, at the end of the day, I don't think Gage's a bad person. He looks to be super happy in his life. Someone told me he's a model. I don't know if that's true, but maybe it's true. Seems like he's got a, family, so whatever, man. Like, you came, you saw, you didn't conquer. That's fine. Like, I got respect for that. At least you walked away and bowed out graciously. I can respect that. I'll respect that over someone who just will not die. Like, just sticks around forever. Anytime, having a check, like some of them NA players, Gage retired. R.I.P. Your career was the definition of mediocrity, but it only lasted 6 years, so no harm, no foul. Right, then we had this. Let's start the cycle again, boys. It's Groundhog Day at Astralis, right? And I'm Bill fucking Murray. So, Astralis have signed Buzz. They brought him in to replace Mister, right? Buzz is coming in from Masonic. He's the next highly rated young player joining Astralis. Now, spoiler, I wanted to do this a few days earlier, the ROSTERPRESSION video, right? But no one's ever going to learn what about today, dickhead actually means, right? Nobody understands it because you think, what about today, dickhead? What it's really trying to teach you, what the mantra of what about today, dickhead is really trying to teach people is wait before you say something. Just wait until the totality of it is done and then make an informed. Don't go off half cock and say something, and then it just, you look, even Duncan does it with his tweets. There's no way a team can lose from this position. Why do you do it to yourself? What about today, dickhead? Just wait until the day's done. For fuck's sake, every time. His Twitter account warps time and space over and over again, so whatever he says, the opposite will happen. I know what it's like. So, anyway, what happened was, Buzz made his debut, didn't he, right? And he got an ace on the pistol, on pistol rounds, which shouldn't exist in Counter-Strike. He got an ace on the pistol. And everyone went, oh my God, 5 fucking Reddit threads. He's the best around. No one's ever gonna keep him down. It is Buzz. Oh yeah. Right? Everyone losing their fucking shit about it, right? And it's like, it's one pistol round, you crackheads. Just fucking wait. And lo and behold, we waited. And you were debated. Because this is what happened. He got them 5 kills and then he finished the game 12 and 20 or something in a losing fucking game, didn't he? And that's what about today, dickhead, should fucking teach you. But they'll never learn. Someone on Reddit said it backfired against me. Yeah, G2 did wicked in that major, didn't he? Oh, no, I was still right. They didn't go to one. So winning a blast at the end of the year when no one can be asked will never make up for not playing at that major. So just saying. Anyway, so they've signed Buzz. Right? He's looked just another ordinary young player. I'm just sick of the cycle. I'm sick of the fucking cycle. That basically what happens every single time Astralis sign a young player. They go out, they get a young player, and they tell everyone about how amazing this young player is. He's been scouted by Casper Shit, and Casper Shit knows a thing or two about handball, so for some reason that makes him qualified to scout CS talent. So they tell everybody this young player's gonna be sick, gonna be mustard, right? And so unbelievable pressure coming in. You're playing with Device, you're playing with Glaive, you gotta come correct, you're in that company. And then obviously, guess what happens? Pressure. So stage 2. Yep, you're underwhelming in your games, aren't you? And then what they do, is what Astralis do is, listen guys, Casper Shit scouted him, so we know he's going to be good. He's just playing bad right now because he's got to learn the role. Remember, he was only in Masonic a few months ago. It's been a big step up for him. And then you panic and you start swapping what the player does. Remember what they did with Lucky, for fuck's sake. Lucky comes in. He's the real deal. He's got the Casper Hit sign of approval. In he comes. By the end of the time, just before he got cut, Glaive was taking the AWP out of his hands. And then Astralis were publicly saying, Glaive was in. I didn't take the AWP off him. Why are you AWPing then, dickhead? Why have you got an AWP? You are. I can see it. Look, he has a rifle. You have an AWP. And then all the copium from Astralis and Astralis fans going, look, he was always a rifler anyway. What are you saying? He was brought into AWP. He wasn't just brought into AWP. He was brought to replace the device. One of the greatest AWPers of all time. Well, he was always a rifler, though. So what's Glaive doing? So they do this, and they'll do it with Buzz. You watch, it's coming. It's just the same cycle again. They'll tell him to play this role, and then it won't work, and then they'll swap him in this role. Because, you know, Zipnix on his fucking, you know, Zipnix the ever-living, right, comes out of the fucking sarcophagus. The fucking, you know, I watched him play the other day. There was like a literal moment on Vertigo where his crosshair swept across someone like twice on the ramp, and because he's like me, Mr. fucking Magoo, he needs a pair of the old Uncle Juniors, he couldn't see the cunt. There was no fucking warden behind him to point at the screen, and so he missed him. It was in a clutch. So it's like, hang on, you're the clutch minister and you can't even fucking see when you're in a clutch. Like, probably time to think about pensioning him off is all I'm gonna say, because I still think he's one of the biggest check stealers in World Counter-Strike. But they won't do that. Zip will get all of his positions, and Buzz will get, like every other player before him, all these young players they bring in, he's going to get moved around and fucked with. And so that will absolutely break his confidence. He just won't want to play anymore. Then they will bench Buzz, and they will bench him with a public statement saying, we always wanted to bring in Buzz to be part of a bigger squad. Maybe a 7-man roster, maybe a 10-man roster. Spoiler, by the way, they're now going to pretend that 10-man roster thing, which they've deleted off their website, they're now going to pretend what they meant is an academy side and 5. And then when they bench him, they're going to pretend, actually, we wanted a bigger roster. So he's going to take a holiday and have a break, because it has been a big step up for him. But we always knew it would be, because they can't admit they get anything wrong, because they're Astralis. We always knew it would be, and so Buzz will be staying with the organisation. Then they will let this kid, 19, rot in contract jail, unable to do anything with his career, until a team that is absolutely zero threat to Astralis want to take him on, and then they'll let him go, you know? It's no coincidence Bubsky, the most talented one, he's doing TV, he just didn't have a playing career. Why? Because big teams wanted him. He was linked with big orgs. Astralis aren't having that. He's on the contract with us. Sorry, you don't get your talent. We'd rather he had no career at all than played good for a team that was close to us in the world rankings. And then they'll announce another player. Another young player, all sacrificed on the altar to keep Zipnix in fucking paper for another season. So I'm not even going to rate this signing. Nothing Buzz can do will stop the inevitable cycle. This will age so well, right? It will not matter. And remember, I'm saying this as someone who wants Astralis to succeed. For the players, definitely not for the org. So no fart noise, no thumbs down, no thumbs up. It'll be another name in 6 months. That's the Astralis way. So it is written, so it shall be done. This move caught a lot of people off guard, but I'm going to say I like it. NIP signed Head Trick. This was the first report that they'd been linked with it. People realised the move was likely to happen when Head Trick and NIP managers and players all started following each other on Twitter in a big flurry. Head Trick was one of those players for me, because he used to tear up that We Play Academy League. And he's had a few spots where he's come through and been a stand-in for the full roster over at Na'Vi. And I think he's a good player. I think, honestly, the NIP, that Jonas Gunderson or whatever his name is, the COO, the guy who was like, we definitely didn't take that sticker money. It was always meant for us. That dude. He fucking basically said, we could challenge for majors with this team now. So they're all feeling really good about this move. Like, they're feeling really good about it. I don't know. I mean, what I will say now is there can be no more excuses about Alexi B. You have the pieces here to be really competitive. I think if Rez is in form and Brolan's in form, Head Trick's in form, Hampus is in form, like, I think this is a like dangerous team. Like, I wouldn't want to play these guys in like knockout competitions like early on. So for me, this move gives them a dimension they haven't had, because as we already said, Rez was not a world-class Orpha. He wasn't one of those riflers. Like, he looked like you just brought, like, Draken back or something. It was, like, wildly inconsistent, clearly functional. And so I never got why they didn't just put Esatag on the Orp, but for whatever reason, they didn't want to. Rez wanted to do it, and now Rez gets his rifle back, and they bring in a competent Orpha. A guy who, by the way, like, if you look at his rating, you can see it's a 1.13. He has been smurfing down there in the Academy League. I watched a lot of Wii play, seen him play a lot. Looks to be one of those, like, type of players that, you know, he's not on a Munacy level, but he's not shy about, you know, taking the fights and being aggressive when it's needed. And so, for me, great pickup. Young, really wants to do it. He said all the right things. You know, he's 18, but he came in. He said, like, when he joined, you know, this is it for him. This is, like, really, he's dialed in, wants to challenge for trophies. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a surprise move because you definitely don't think, you know, you're going to have a non-Swede come into this team. But I guess, obviously, everyone's comfortable communicating in English. And so, whatever, we'll wait and see. A little interesting tidbit as well. Blade said he didn't feel he was ready to play versus Tier 1 comfortably enough. And I think, seem to remember him saying something similar about Munacy. So, you know, even Blade, even the greats, their takes can age like milk. But, of course, no one will ever say that because he's CSGO royalty. So, I mean, for me, I'm going to need to see him play a bit more in this Alexi B system. I think Alexi B is good at getting mileage out of his Orpas as well, historically, and good with just bringing in, bedding in players. Yeah, I'm not excited, so it's only going to get one thumbs up. But it's a good move. It's a huge step in the right direction for NIP. While we're talking about careers that just fucking created, the curse of Arlu continues. Sergey, career done from being in the top 20 to being nowhere. Sonny, just out there, like the main dude from Kung Fu, like just wandering the earth. Like, just, what's he even doing? Like, if you know, he was on that Gorillas. He was on that Gorillas team that did absolutely fuck all. Then went into this team, this fake team, the Titans org. That's meant to be Swiss, but I think it was backed by the same people that might have been backing Gorillas or backing something else. Totally failed. No money, of course. And you know, he's 28, and he's just been out there for so fucking long. And I think people forget he was like a legit fucking player, like, no joke, Sonny was actually, like, a solid player. Like, actually, let's have a look at his stats page. Like, because this is just sad, dude. Like, playing for Titans, ex-Titans. Like, I'm trying to think, when was his, like, actual fucking last real team? Like, look at this. It was Ents. Holy shit, it's just sad, like. Just fucking sad. Remember, that all came undone because of the whole Arlu situation and everything else there. Like, you go to Fun Plus Phoenix for a bit, that's a fucking nightmare. Gorillas, what a waste of time. And then Titans, like, holy shit. And it's got to be said as well, this entire time, I mean, had some absolute stinkers, didn't he? So, I don't know. Shame. There was one point where he was one of the best deaglers in the fucking world. And, like, a really desirable player you would want in your team. But he's in free agency. I don't think he really needed to announce he was in free agency. He was sort of just in permanent free agency, like, for his entire career. But, you know, hopefully he can get a move, but probably not. I can't even think of a team where it would be suitable for him. I mean, maybe he could join a Sprout. Bit of experience in there, but yeah, I mean, his stats are hardly an advertisement. So yeah, not really a big story, but worth including. But Richard, he's not a stand-in. Why do you keep saying he's a stand-in? Why do you keep saying he's a placeholder player? Because he always was, you fucking morons. You fucking idiots. So yeah, SDY. Wow, God, really? You think SDY? Wow, never knew that. Never knew SDY was going to leave. So SDY out in Na'Vi, and Na'Vi continued the trend they've been on in recent years of bringing young players through the academy. Let's just talk a little bit about SDY, some die young. I mean, for real, does anyone actually think he's a player good enough to play for the likes of Na'Vi? I don't. You know, he ended up joining Monty now. Now, that's interesting because Monty were at that fucking... Monty's that team that was at the heart of the story that I wrote about that ESIC whistleblower because he was like blackmailing them. And esports is so broken now. A story like that. Think about this, right? Think about any other year, a whistle, right? So a former employee of a governing body within esports quits and then starts blackmailing players for money behind the scenes. That's like a huge scandal like any other year. Esports is so broken now. That article, like, it just didn't even get read. It got like 4 comments on like the subreddit. Like, no one cares. Like, so anyway, Some Die Young, for me, he wasn't good enough at all. And clearly, all joking aside, he wasn't vibing with Simple. Simple, obviously, I think some of his more negative traits have crept back in to his attitude in terms of how forthright he is and what his expectations are about players. But I think, it's a stressful time for him. It doesn't excuse not being a good teammate, but someone's got to just take charge of that situation, and it's probably quite telling that not even Blade can. And Some Die Young, for me, made a ton of mistakes when he was playing for Na'Vi. Like, Some Die Young was just... There was loads of times he could have had trade frags and he didn't. Loads of times he should have peaked and he didn't. Slow rotations. Like, I can understand the frustration. I don't know why he was brought in the first place. I don't know why people didn't feel there were better options. Like, he's been out there for a while, SDY, and he's played on a number of teams, and nothing ever suggested to me he was, like, Na'Vi caliber. But, he had his chance. He blew it. He's never going to play at that level ever again. So I hope he learned something from it and can do something down in the tier 2 with the experience. But anyway, this is interesting. Bringing NPL, Nipple as he's being called through. Got to say, he obviously used to be on Na'Vi Junior and they brought him in full time. Blade seems to think he's one of the players that's going to be ready. And obviously a lot of people have been licking their lips and like, it's very tantalizing. Oh, we always lick our lips when there's a nipple, coming through. But no, they obviously, it's a very tantalizing prospect because everyone thinks he's going to be bit number 2, right? But he's not. He's not that type of player. I mean, I thought when you watch Bit play, it was immediately clear how good Bit was, for me at least. I was watching him and I was like, why is he not playing instead of Flamey? I said that for the full time he was on the roster. But Nipple, this player, they brought in through, the academy side. Again, I'll just click on, like you can see, since he's come into the team, he's obviously, played in a few games now, and it's been very hit and miss, let's say. It wasn't a great debut. Obviously, these are best of ones, but, in the best of 3 against Nip. So, Nipple... I thought he did really well against Nip. I thought he had like some good moments, good individual level of performance, and there was plenty of promise there for me. So I think as long as people don't expect another Bit, which you're not gonna get because he was like a phenom. He's like one of the like craziest finds. This is definitely a step in the right direction for Na'Vi because SDY was like never going to make the grid. Never going to make the grid. Cautious 1 thumb up for this because I think you'd have to struggle to find... Like, put it this way. If Nipple turns out to be as bad as SDY, at least the upside is he's like 17 or 18, whereas SDY is like 25. At least he's got room to grow. So yeah, 1 thumb up for that one. We can start moving into January. Fuck you, it's January. Boomich, my old friend Boomich. Lots of people talking him up and linking him with teams. Wasn't able to find one during Rostermania, and you have to think now with the tournaments going to be coming thick and fast. We got Katowice coming up. We got Pro League coming up. We got the Blast again after that. Like... keeping in mind, he is still out there, and the perception is if you sign him, he's got to be the in-game leader. I don't know. I don't think he's going to find the type of project he wants for the first half of this year because people are going to want to, build towards the major in Paris. And I don't think he's going to get a top-tier team that are willing to pick him up as an IGL. I've got to say, I think Boomich, it's like, it's fucked up. The whole thing's fucked up from start to finish, it's got to be said. Like, I mean, keep in mind, he was the IGL for the major winning team, that was the number one team in the year. Loads of people, myself included, speculated about whether or not he was actually the IGL or whether he was just a conduit for Blade and also sort of had to play second fiddle to Simple whenever Simple wanted to call around. And I think all of that criticism and speculation was valid. But without him, Na'Vi have gone backwards. I mean, there's obviously all these other mitigating circumstances, the invasion of Ukraine, all this stuff going on. We can never know what would have happened without him in a normal and sane world. But equally, I sort of feel Boomich has been a bit vindicated. I think the reason he got cut as well, just so people know, his wife, now ex, now don't even know. One of the biggest mistakes, I mean, he'll look back at this when he's an old man, and, you know, we all make mistakes, but holy shit, this was a big one. You know, it turned out all of the shit she said was fucking, like, just garbage. She photoshopped those pictures of him with his dick out. She accused him of being a closet homosexual and having secret affairs. All just bitterness from an ex, just trying to do everything to discredit him and hurt him, you know, and he had to deal with all of that. The videos of him doing methadone, who gives a fuck? We've all had a sniff at some point. The worst part was, for a woman that clearly didn't care about him anymore, he essentially lost his job in Na'Vi because of the shit she said. I just don't get, because of her pro-Putin stance. I don't get how that's his fault. Like, I don't get, like, what do you do? Yeah, I married the crazy person. Like, now what? Like, we're not even together anymore. Yeah, she is still saying crazy things. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, what do you want me to do? You know? So, it's really fucked up that he had to carry the can. And obviously, since then, just hasn't been able to get a team. I'll say this. I don't know how good an IGL he is. I don't know how much the language barrier is going to affect. I've talked to Boomich, he can speak English. But it seems crazy. Like, in terms of the drop-off from where he was to where he is, to go from being the IGL of a major winning team to no teams touching me at all. I don't know. I don't know how that happens. Like, it just feels like that's not fair. That's and not not an accurate reflection. There's got to be teams that like could pick him up and give him a go. I just don't know which one it would be. I feel like it might not be a Russian team. I think Russian teams at the moment, they just got good IGLs, good structures, good players coming through. You know, Spirit and Forza. He surplus the requirements there, that's for sure. And obviously, there was all that talk. He was being gassed up. I think it was like an overdrive leak. Oh, G2 might get it. Never happening. Never in a million years. So, I don't know, man. Just feels sad. I think he's a good player. I'd love to see someone take a chance on him, for sure. I think he deserves better than what panned out, you know. You can't help who you love, even if they don't do right by you and fuck your whole life up, you know. So, someone give Boomich a chance. I'll give him 2 thumbs up as a prospect. Go on. Roll the dice. What's the worst that can happen? Let's talk about one that boiled my piss for multiple reasons. We love a good piss boiling. Here we go. This one. Cloud9 signing Buster. Oh, God, it makes me angry. Doesn't it just make me angry? So, let's start with the first thing. Cloud9 obviously wanted to replace Inters. Inters plays this supportive role within Cloud9. He's never going to post big numbers. He never has posted big numbers. He didn't even post big numbers, by the way, when they were dominating the online era and were the number 1 team in the world, having their wonderful duel back and forth with Na'Vi before Na'Vi emerged triumphant. You know, they really sharpened each other as teams because they played each other all the time because we were essentially landlocked. But Inters didn't even post big numbers then. I've always felt that the Cloud9 issue, by the way, I know, people have this argument, and there was one guy just went psycho at me. I think we even had to block him from coming into the chat. He lost his mind. I just said, I think Axile's a bottler. I think he did terrible at the last major. And obviously he finished, like, you know, he finished in the top 5 here at in the HLTV top 20. I don't know. As my gut is, even and look, trust me, I know he's had these great stat lines and stuff in games. I always feel like I don't feel like you can back on him at LAN in a big game. I just don't. I don't know. I'm probably wrong. Might be prejudice. Might be bias. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. right? But I just can't. I don't feel that way, and I just don't know why. I also feel like Nafani, I think, is an IGL. I think he's a bottler. I think he doesn't adjust when things start coming apart. I don't think his, like, it's not enough to have a plan B, even when you're playing good teams. What's your plan C? What's your plan D? What's your adjustments? I think he's one of these guys who, like, really never understood fundamentally the difference between playing online at LAN with no crowd and then playing in a fucking partisan stadium. I don't think he ever realised that the levels to the game, because he had the luxury of obviously being Gambit Academy, essentially, and then coming through, and then we were straight in the COVID and the pandemic era. So he's got things he needs to add to his toolkit that people like Carrigan have and do exceptionally well. And so, listen, I felt a bit sorry for Inters, but also I'll agree, Cloud9 had to make a change. I don't know if Inters should take all of the blame, but that's just the nature of the business. He's probably the one that you can cut safely, take a gamble, and even if Buster comes in and sucks, as long as he sucks as much as Inters, it's going to be okay. Now, I'll also add to this. A lot of people were like, well, Buster's not very good. Buster? Why Buster when all those other mad Russian talent out there? For me, it's more about Buster's mindset. If you know about, like, the roles he's taken in teams, he's played, like, going all the way back, historically. He's played, like, very unglamorous roles. He's played, like, high impact but also high risk roles. He's also, again, very good pistol stroke deagle player. He's been an IGL for a period of time. He's just a guy who, like, much like Esatag we talked about earlier, who he just wants to make the team work, and not a lot of players have that maturity. Not a lot of players have that maturity to be like, my game suffers but the team wins, so I win, right? A lot of players go, if my stat line's bad, I will get cut eventually, even if the team wins, which of course that's not true at all. If your IGL knows the value of what you do and your owner knows the value of what you do, you're safe. As long as you're getting them trophies, it's all good. But a lot of players can't put themselves in that headspace, and this is how you get a lot of dysfunctional teams. I don't think Buster's a terrible pickup. I also think there is certainly, just talking about overall skill ceiling, in Russia right now, Russian players, I think there's some unbelievable talented players that you could definitely entice over to Cloud9. 100% that are better than Buster. But for whatever reason, and they did hold tryouts, so this is another thing. You've got to trust their judgment a little bit as well. They held tryouts, they tried Sanji apparently, and some other players, and at the end of the day it was Buster that came out on top and was the most appealing. So, you know what? I'll give this a cautious thumbs up. I think Cloud9 had to make a change if they were going to be relevant and competitive in this new landscape. As you can see by looking on the screen, they've dropped out of the top 5. They're not even in the top 5 teams in the world. Now, obviously, there's going to be a correction there because, lol, there's no way G2 a second. Lol, there's no way Liquid a third. And triple lol, there's no way Outsiders a 5th. But, for now, Cloud9 are well off the pace as to where they should be, especially for the outlay of the money that they spent, to a Norwegian talent agency, which makes it okay. But I'll say, and look, I know he's from Kazakhstan. Sorry, when I said Russian players, I'm not talking about Buster. I'm saying there are other Russian players out there they could have got from Russian teams that would have fit, but they all speak the same lingo. So anyway, this move boiled my piss. Why did it boil my piss? Boiled my piss for a number of reasons. Just Cloud9 privilege, North American org privilege is outrageous. It's outrageous. They get to do what the fuck they want all the time, break all the rules, flaunt it, break all the conventions, no one says anything. And I like Jack and I like Cloud9, but this is, again, you already signed an org, you already exploited the invasion in Ukraine to get your 3 million team to immediately be back relevant after you cut Henry G's project, and it's not just because he's my mate, because maybe you had to do that, but you cut that project loose without really giving it a chance to get going. Like, they hadn't even had a fucking, Henry hadn't even gone and met all the players in person. You didn't give that any time at all. after it was assembled, and you cut them loose, and then you exploit an invasion and set something up with a Norwegian talent agency, and I know there was fuckery behind the scenes, because there's no way Gambit just decide to give the player rights and contracts away to a Norwegian talent agency weeks before you swoop in to buy them, when you've also publicly said how you think Groove is amazing, and you would love to work with a guy like Groove. We all can see what happened there. It's why you've never addressed this publicly, because we all know what happened there. So it's fine. You got away with one. But then, I won't even get into that Hobbit stuff just went away, did it? Literally videos of dodgy pistol rounds, betting slips, recordings of people saying, yeah, we did fix that. We did spot fix those pistol rounds. That all went away, did it? Because ESIC can't follow up on any of this stuff now. So that all went away. No problems there. Hobbit just got to play at the major. No one cares. North American privilege, of course. Where it's not even talked about. No one's even felt comfortable having the discussion. So Hobbit just says, I'm totally innocent. I don't know, that recording sounded dodgy, mate. All right, whatever. We just go back to it. And now, remember, Buster was on the bench of outsiders Virtus fucking Pro. One of the one orgs we're not meant to be doing business with right now is Virtus Pro. In fact, I think the only sanctioned org, the only org who has been truly sanctioned is Virtus Pro. Virtus Pro comedically have to use this term outsiders whenever they play in Counter-Strike, something they don't have to do in Dota. People insist on it. People think outsiders, people are so dumb, people think outsiders is a separate org. It's not. It is the Virtus Pro players being paid by Virtus Pro in a different t-shirt, using a different name. That is it. That is the only difference. They pay for everything. It is their team. So if we're not meant to be doing business with Virtus Pro, and keep in mind, outsiders doesn't exist. And by the way, it's totally okay to do business with Virtus Pro now, because they are Armenian owned, unless you can prove otherwise. So now, Cloud9 have done business with outsiders and Virtus Pro, and they'll turn around and say, well, it's okay, they're Armenian owned. So stop the sanctions then. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. And because it's Cloud9, again, no one's got the fucking balls to call this shit out. It's pathetic. So by every conventional standard, this move shouldn't be allowed to happen. If they paid a single penny for Buster, that is money that by definition is going into the big Putin war machine, because somehow all the esports money ends up there, doesn't it? Right? And therefore you're supporting Putin and you're supporting Russia. That was the standard we set and agreed to. But every time Cloud9 wants something, they get it. It's a fucking joke. So this move, even though I think Buster's going to be good and it gets thumbs up in terms of just the move itself, because it's Cloud9 and they're on their bullshit, double Overwatch fart noise. Fuck you and your bullshit till you come out and own it. Woxic, the Lanimal, free agency, leaves Eternal Fire. What a mess that project's been. From start to finish. Like, Major retired, comes back, he's in again. Woxic's gone. That org has just been a mess from start to finish. I remember saying on the By the Numbers, when we were talking about Eternal Fire when it's put together, I'm like, if you put all the best players from Turkey together and they all play nice, because there's been loads of historical beef there, right? But they could be like a mad upset team. It's never worked. Eternal Fire's never done nothing. In fact, like, what are they ranked at there? 41 in the world, right? Think about a team with like Major, Xantares, and Woxic, and Calyx being like, compared to some of the teams in the top 20. That's mad to me. Like, that's mad to me. I haven't seen all of them play down the years. But they just never have a steady roster and it never works out. And what I thought was mad was, like, Woxic said he wants to continue his career in an international team. In other words, I can't play with my Turkish homies no more. Like, it's all over. And they are the only show in town if you're a Turkish player. So he's a free agent. He's out there. And what's mad is, at the same time this happened, our boy Esatag, problems of his own, of course, he did an interview where he was talking about the time in Cloud9 and basically just said, Woxic didn't watch demos and do stuff like this. Like, I mean, I think we all know from hearing people talk about what was going on in Cloud9 at that time, one of the biggest problems in that team was that it was online. Woxic was playing with like a mad ping, but he also wasn't pulling his weight in terms of the work according with the players in there. I'd love to hear Kassad. I might have to just bring him on a stream one night and me and Kassad can talk about that entire madness, like, because I think that'll be fucking funny. And I think it's been long enough now that it's safe to talk about. But You know, I'd wager one of the reasons Kassad was on the outs was because he was pulling his hair out with this dude. I watched every single Cloud9 game, and I was watching him do things that were unthinkable, like aggressively pushing. He's an Orpha, got an AWP, second round, they're on an eco, aggressively pushing with an AWP into an eco, dying, giving them an AWP, and then they lose the round. And it's like, fuck me, like, you've got to be better than that. But I always rated Woxic going back to the mouse sports days. I've said he's an animal. I think he's a good pickup, but again, at this stage, if you're out there putting your name in free agency as the tournament start, you're probably not going to get a chance. And I don't even know what team would be willing to pick up like an Orpha, an erratic Orpha at this time. Very interesting to see if he's able to get a place on a team. Then we've had the big changes, haven't we, at Evil Geniuses. Circ finally out at EG after having a long period of time where he was very lackluster. I like Circ. Personally, I'm definitely biased. You know, listen, there were some dark periods, but there were some good periods. And you have to think about, like, all the eras that Circ sort of fucking had to coexist with. All of the nightmares, the coaching changes, the roster changes, the Stewie 2K fucking fevered period. I don't think EG is like a great org to be playing for right now. Looks like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone's talking about it. Like, you got that gamer doc person, like, who was like the director of performance, now mysteriously isn't. But you know, it's not a good environment for a player when you've got like 50 managers and coaches. That's an exaggerated number, but you know, loads of them, and they're all on social media, all talking about it and fighting and bickering with people while you're getting shit on by analysts. Like, when you're a player, you just want to keep your head down and try and like improve and get to a place where you can actually deliver. And I just don't think that was ever going to happen. EG's become a fucking circus, you know, no pun intended. And so I think Circ will be happy. I think he'll be happy to get out of this org, honestly. Now, where he goes, I don't know. He's got another problem of being an Orpha that's on a downturn career-wise. Not a lot of spots available for Orphas, and the AWP position being a really good spot, you know? Now, if this had happened a bit sooner, he would have been tailor-made for a team like Complexity, say, you know. They picked up Hall Zerk and they're going to back him for a while, but that would have been a move that could have realistically happened. Probably Liquid aren't ever going to be out on OC unless something mad drastic happens, and would Circ be the guy? Probably not. So I don't really know where he can go right now, and he's probably, you know, maybe there's some European teams can pick him up. What I don't want to see happen is him end up playing for like fucking 500 or some of those, you know, bullshit Bulgarian orgs and all the stuff they get up to. I wouldn't want to see Circ lower himself to that. He's too good a player. If I had a choice, since someone in the chat asked, if I had a choice between Woxic or Circ, I'd take Circ. 100%. Like, I'm 100%. That's just based on everything I know behind the scenes, but I also think just sort of a tangible appreciation of, you know, when like where their various ceilings are at and when they happen. Like, one thing you can never criticize Circ during his EG time, when guys like Stewie gave up, Circ was grinding. When guys like Breezy, who's still on the team, gave up, Circ was grinding. Like, Circ wanted it so bad. I think even like Malek and his assistant manager all said, like, Circ was the one dude on the team that was putting in the effort. So all PG fans, like, are at least cognizant of that. It wasn't for lack of trying. There's plenty of players who don't try. Circ wasn't one of them. And so I'd be willing to roll the dice on Circ if I needed an Orpha again, but obviously there's just not a lot of orgs out there. I guess we can talk a bit about what that means for the EG roster overall, because we've seen him in action now. Had that surprise win over Heroic at Blast at the time of recording this, but again, people never learn, do they? What about today, dickhead? The last tournament of the year and the first tournament of the year are the ones where you get the most flukes and aberrations. G2 winning the last tournament of the year when you're going up against dead teams and people that just want to have a holiday, it doesn't mean shit. Winning the first one when you come back from the player break and everyone's rusty, it doesn't mean shit. All the others, it's all fair game, but those two tournaments don't mean shit the way our season is structured, especially because the last tournament of the year comes after a major. Anything after a major is a fucking wash, usually. So they've brought in Wiz to be the long-term Orpha replacement. I'm not going to judge him too harshly. Hext is obviously their IGL. He had a good game against Heroic, got to be said. Neelan, is in the team as well. Automatic and Breezy. That's going to be their starting roster. They brought in Viz and George Snorts as well, kind of to be in and around the team. Sorry, Neelan's the IGL, my bad. But anyway, they had a really good performance against Heroic and then a terrible performance against Vitality. And so you can't really say anything. Vorberg was right. He said, you will see a better Evil Geniuses than you've ever seen before. But the thing with that statement is you couldn't be wrong because they were an embarrassment every time they rolled out in Pro League. I mean, it was really, really terrible. So I think overall, that roster, do I think it's going to do anything amazing? No. Do I think it's going to do better than the dysfunctional Stewie 2K rosters? Yeah. So for this one, it's just a shaky hand. I've got no strong feeling about it, one way or the other. Let's see. At least I know now everybody on that roster wants it. That's something. That's a step in the right direction. I bet everybody on that roster right now, maybe Automatic and Breezy don't feel this way, but I'll wager in the post-Stubby 2K landscape, they feel good about it. But I'll wager the rest of that team, Neil and Hext, Wiz, any of the others, if they get a chance, I'll wager they're absolutely over the moon to be representing Evil Geniuses and will give it their all. So, and Breezy looked the best he's been in a while. He played alright in the first map against Vitality as well. So, anyway, Circ leaving Evil Geniuses. It's a big sad if you love Circ, but there you go. Another one in free agency was Mantu. Mantu was a strange one for me. Mantu was one of those players when he was in OG. I remember I've talked about this with other players. Mantu for me was like he looked like such a great find when he first come on the scene, and everyone was like mad blown away by how good he was, and people were just like, wow, okay, yeah, I get what people were talking about. But then slowly but surely the inconsistency kind of started to creep into his game, and what can you say? Like Dexter is just so much better. Obviously there was no way back for him, but you'll see the common thread in all of this. It's the Orpha, right? It's the okay, above average Orpha that's really struggling here in the free agency period, because you've had so many good Orphas emerge last year and really cement their reputations. It's just hard if you can't do Dexter things, then you're not going to be in the top team. Like simple as that. We've also had people like literally resurrected, like Device coming back, Head Trick coming through. Like if you're an Orpha, it's a really competitive field, I think. Even though I think the overall ceiling for CS is massively down, I think if you look at all of the teams right now, it's like, Cadian can't be moved because he's the IGL. G2 Munacy, he's fucking sick, rookie of the year. Fazer Brokey, he's a stats monster. I think he makes too many mistakes. That's not an opinion a lot of people go with. Outsiders have Jim. Liquid have OC, so maybe in there. But again, he's doing okay. It's just like one of those things. It's like, right now, if you're an Orpha, you got to be on the top of your game. And Mantu wasn't at the end. I mean, like, in terms of the eye test, he still had some nice rounds, some nice shots. But just in terms of the consistency, it wasn't there. Meanwhile, like, Dexter, by all accounts, he's a difficult personality, but he's fucking sick. So, where Mantu goes, again, I don't know. I think him and Circ and Woxic and all the other, like, above-average Orphas are all going to be... They all want to make a union or something, like, try and get in a fucking teams to, or maybe they should all form a team, fight and call themselves. Find some other above-average Orphas and just be 5 above-average Orphas all playing on a team. But, I don't see Mantu getting anywhere either for the same reason. And obviously, I think I skipped over Hades because I think he's officially joined the team now. So we'll be getting to that in a second. This one, probably the biggest story of a super underwhelming. I mean, by the way, you've seen the type of names I'm talking about and the type of moves that have been made. This Rostermania, like I say, ROSTERPRESSION, it is fucking dog shit. But this probably is the biggest story of the whole roster window, of the whole transfer window. This was Chiron coming in to replace Norbert. I'd made jokes about Norbert being a major winner, and Norbert just cut. You know, and it's weird. They won a major. There wasn't another single game played. Nothing happened. And then they cut Norbert from the team. And it was really weird and fucked up because what happened was Overdrive leaked it that Chiron was going to be joining the team. I think because Norbert's girlfriend on a stream had said there was a problem and that the players wanted to cut him secretly. And then Norbert came out and said, guys, it's all rumours. There are going to be no changes. And then blam, he got. Norbert got. So yeah, apparently the move was in motion going into the major and then they won the major. And that didn't stop the move. So I don't know. It's like, fuck do you do with that? Obviously as well, they went to that blast. So I forgot. They bombed out of the last blast of the year, the one G2 won. I just erased that from my memory for obvious reasons. But Outsiders were there, remember, because they got the invite. Usually they're not on the blast circuit, but they just lost immediately. I don't think they could be asked, you know, because it's like, whatever, we're Outsiders, we've been invited, it's blast, it's not our thing, we've just won a major, fuck it. We're a bit of a dead team walking. Crazy. I just don't even know why they would make the roster change, why they would go ahead with it. And like, again, Norbert's like, weren't terrible. So weird. But they brought in, again, it's more about picking up these young Russian players and young Ukrainian players, which are just dominating the world right now. Because it's like, not only are they unbelievably good, they're also unbelievably cheap and like just unbelievably grateful to have opportunities right now. It's the perfect dream. It's one thing that's aged super well, I'll say, is that me and Duncan absolutely called the rise. You know, obviously, the terrible stuff that's happened with the Russian invasion and everything, you can't foresee stuff like that. But me and Duncan absolutely nailed on. We said Russia, Ukraine, you know, they were going to dominate all the CIS countries. It was all the talent was there, and it was all going to start coming through. And it definitely has. That take is fucking aged unbelievably well. I don't know much about Chiron. I won't gaslight you. I can't really say like one or the other how I feel about whether or not he's a really good player. But super surprised that Outsiders make a change at all. Now, what I will add, and you'll notice as well, it's Virtus Pro making the change, not Outsiders, because they are Virtus Pro and not Outsiders. Outsiders aren't real. What I'll say is, I never thought Outsiders were even close to being the best team in the world. I hate their style of play. It's not their fault. It's not their fault they play the way they play. The game right now allows them to play the way they play. We have the worst meta in Counter-Strike history, the worst map pool in Counter-Strike history, and it's all conspired to allow a team like Virtus Pro to play absolutely fucking just terrible attritional Counter-Strike that is an insult to the game. So I never thought they were the best team in the world. When they won the major, I never thought Virtus Pro were the best. I had no hopes of them coming in. Anyone who watched the No Majors clubs, we went through it, I was literally saying over and over and over again, like, surely they can't win this one, surely they can't win this one, surely they don't. And it just kept on trundling along all the maps, all the rounds, until the final when Heroic, in classic Heroic fashion, bottled it. And we actually got one of the dullest finals played probably since the Astralis and Vanguard one. So I never thought they were as good as what that suggested. And when they finished last at the next blast, I was like, well, yeah. And I don't think they're going to be top 5 this year. So maybe making a move is a good idea. Like, maybe making a move is going to freshen it up a bit. Maybe Chiron's going to give them like a shot in the arm. You know, you can see he was very good when he was in Spirit Academy. 1.22 rating coming out of there. He's clearly ready for an attempt at tier 1 Counter-Strike, and so fair enough. You know, don't rest on your laurels, Virtus Pro. So I'll give it a thumbs up, even though mad surprise. And poor Norbert made a fool of himself on the way out. I actually broke this live on a 4 Horseman, and it broke Duncan. It made him sad because he wanted a return of the great Frenchies in existence to come together once again in the Belgian-French alliance, and instead we got this. So, this is the announcement that shocks and his really good real-life friend, it's got to be said, Smith. And by the way, look, I'm obviously privy to information behind the scenes. I get why they're so fucking close. That's like a real brotherly bond. So, listen, Smith's is shit, right? But I totally get why Shocks would want to play with him, like, forever until the end of time. Like, I understand it totally, 100%. Like, so, you know, if I was the master of my own destiny, and I got to pick who was working on a project with me, and I had room for one person who wasn't quite good enough to be there, but was like one of my super, like, real life loyal friends who'd done so much for me, probably do chuck him a paycheck. Obviously. Nothing wrong with a bit of fucking cronyism, nepotism from time to time. Just don't do too much of it. But anyway, they announced that they're coming together with 3 newcomers. And these newcomers, the one you probably heard the most of is Deos. He's been around the ringer, been around the ring, I should say. Kersey and Netu. Netu being the youngest at 17. And Flexor, who you will remember from my other video where I was talking about what an online bullshit artist this cunt used to be. One of the worst onliners I ever saw in all my years in CSS. Like, just a fucking absolute joke. Everybody in every country, all the Danes used to laugh about how online this guy was. All the Czechs and the Slovaks used to laugh about how fucking online this guy was. All the dudes in the top teams, Swedes used to laugh about it. It was just unreal, the level of hit. It was unstoppable in a friendly game in a scrim. Unstoppable. For like 30 kills guaranteed. Flexor. Just absolute bullshit. Well, anyway, he's the coach. So as soon as I mention him, he's back from the dead. But yeah, listen, I don't even mind. That was a different game. That was a different world and a different time. You can be an online bullshit artist in Source. You know, he's going to be a coach here. Wish him all the best. It's just nice to see the old Source guys still hanging around. But man alive, I've got to say, when Shock said he was making his own project, yeah, you think about it. You know, NBK was available, Kenny S, you know, out there, right? Like, oh, you know, and I knew he wouldn't play with NBK because obviously those two historically have never vibed with each other. And every time they've tried it, it's gone off the rails. They're just two fundamentally different people and they can't get along, and that's that, right? Like, but, you know, yeah, Kenny's at Falcons, but dude, that don't mean shit. It don't mean shit. He's not, like, if he had an opportunity to, like, just bail on that, he could just pay his own way out. You know? If he could, like, if Shock's had some Super 6 sponsor lined up and all of that stuff, like, yeah, obviously, you just go, yeah, sorry, Falcons. It's not a real thing anyway. It's all good. But anyway, so it's just called Shock's Project. I've got to say, I'm massively underwhelmed. I don't know a great deal about these players. They try and do a good job in the HLTV write-up of, like, priming you. Kersey saying that he was raised by the great KRL on Gen 1. But I don't know. This doesn't excite me in any way, shape, or form. And, they're called Nakama now. What does that even mean? Is it a weeb thing? Weeb shit. Well, we've got an emote for that, guys. Use it. So, yeah, I don't know. For me, I think this is just something to do with friends. I know, obviously, we've got the RMRs coming up, and a lot of people are like, but what if, and then he could be in Paris, and oh. Shocks is the best player, theoretically, on the lineup, and Shocks is washed. Love him to bits. Known Richard all his career, but he's washed. And he was really bad on Liquid, and I know they had a ton of problems, blah, blah, blah. Like, these guys wouldn't have beat the old Heat lineup that just fell apart. Like, that's my opinion. So, unfortunately, I never thought I would ever be doing this at any point, but I'm going to give this just a single Overwatch fart noise. I think this is just a circle jerk waste of time for everybody involved, and it does nothing, and they break up in 3 months. Hades, another one of the fucking good, but not quite good enough Orping crew, obviously formerly of Ents, which is where he was kind of warming the bench. I did a Richard Lewis show with Snappy where we talked about it, and he was like super big up. He's like, Hades was great, but in the end, you know, we just had to make a change and get that upgrade, and you can see, you know, what we got with some Pious and how that works. So anyway, he's joined 9 or 9-9, I don't know. In my opinion, does look to be slumming it a little bit, frankly. They've got a player called Goofy, which is great. Strong name there. Happy with that. Kyler, this is the only player I've actually heard of on this lineup. K, and I don't even know Kai, and I don't even know where the fuck I've heard of him, but I've seen him play. And then Minio. So this is like poor Hades. Waited all this time and ended up, yeah, it was Anonymous, that was it, yeah, Anonymous. So, you know, waited all this time, and this is the opportunity that's presented itself, which is kind of sad. Like, I think Hades is better than this, so, you know, watch this space. I don't know how long this team will last. I also don't know how long Hades will last in this. So in terms of rating it, because I rated Hades, I get the drop-off. I understand why Ent's made the change. But, you know, again, he goes into that, like, out of all of those Orphas, I'd put him above some of them. Not all of them. I don't know whereabouts I would rate him in the great mediocre Orpha, above average Orpha conversation. But it's a very good move for 9-9. Well done. One thumb up for you. But in terms of where this puts Hades in his career, sorry, that's a thumbs down, I'm afraid, homie. You are going to be the star player in this team by a million fucking miles. And if you aren't, it's one of those poison chalice gigs where it's like you can only come out of it looking worse. Then we had this. By God, it's Golden's music. I still alive. I alive. So Golden has become a coach, and he's coaching the roster that has gone to be the new Godsent team. Let's have a look at this roster overall. Nip announced a 3-year extension. They've basically done a fucking João Felix. They announced a 3-year extension on ZTR, and then immediately put him on long-term loan to Godsent. And so, ZTR, who we know was really bad when he last played for Nip, Draken's back. Now, any one of those Orphas, and I love you, Draken, homie, because I know we've talked, but also got to keep it real. Any one of those Orphas, by the way, that we've just talked about, be all better. All of them. Just don't speak Swedish. So, you know, I'm guessing. Draken being the Orpha. You have our good friend Rusty. Also, as you can see, not been getting those 1 ratings. Plopsky out of Fnatic. And then Joel, who is the wild card in the team. They signed him from Monty, that aforementioned team. Joel was one of the players that was being blackmailed about by the ESIC whistleblower, where he was like, I've got proof he threw a match, and then it's like the proof is a screenshot of some dude going, ha, Joel fixes matches, and someone goes, does he? Yeah. Any proof? Trust me, bro. Brilliant. Wicked. And obviously then Golden as a coach. Now, I'm going to say this. Oh, yeah, and of course, Heaton is now in again. Fresh from all of the troubles with Nip and all of the tax stuff. Now we're going to have one more roll of the dice being a CEO. So I'm just going to say, yeah, this has disaster written all over it, doesn't it? Because not one of those players has been sent by God to play Counter-Strike. Like, I'm sorry. Like, just real. Again, you know, you're all nice dudes, but real talk, like, at no point in your fucking career has any of these players, like, stood out and looked good. Like, it was all downhill for ZTR in Nip. He, like, had a good debut, and then by the time they played that major, he was absolutely fucking shocking. So, don't even know what that is. Draken, one of the most inconsistent Orphas I've ever seen. Like, unreal flick shots, and then misses a dude stood right in front of him. So, don't know what that's about. I'm never coming aboard for Rusty and Plopsky. And I've seen Joel in Tier 2. I've seen that Monty team playing, like, ESEA and stuff. But that isn't a real barometer of how good a player's going to be. I think Golden's going to add something as a coach. I think, basically, out of all of the signings, the best part is Golden being the coach. But I think he's going to be tearing his hair out. I don't think he really knows what he signed up for with a project like this. And as Heaton at CEO as well, it's like, let's make an org where there's almost everything can go wrong. Let's just do that, right? And so that's what's happened here. Like, for me, I don't know. I don't really see this having any success at all. I don't see how it's going to challenge, like, you know, think about some of the teams now that you would want to be, like, jumping over or in the top 20. I mean, I don't even see how this team can hold a position in the top 20. consistently with the skill ceilings dropped overall, but from 20 to 1, like all of those teams could probably beat anyone else. Like I don't see how Godsent can be competitive at all. So for me, how many thumbs? Go on. Double thumbs down. This just looks like a waste of everyone's time. Suppose we can add this. Just have a little bit of banter. The Last Dance just never ends. It's the never-ending Last Dance, even though it's not a Last Dance, because the only person from the Last Dance now is fucking fallen. FNX is the coach now, just to keep him around. Why not? But this is, that Fur has gone. They brought in Jota. This apparently was a big money move, by all accounts, in the scene. But they brought in Jota. I mean, I'm not surprised, and I am surprised. Because to be fair, Fur did roll it back a little bit at the major he played at. I think his attitude in general stinks, but I think it was clear he wanted it. He wanted to have a good send-off, a meaningful send-off, and Fur really, really gave it his all and had some good games. So, seems weird that they want to get rid of him. I know Jota is like one of these players who, like, you know, he's been in some decent Brazilian lineups and stuff. So I just look at that roster. It's like, I don't know. Vinny, Bolt, Cello, Fallen. It doesn't feel that bad. What are they well ranked in? 34? That doesn't feel like a bad team. It's not great, but I think they'll do okay. Like, put it this way, there's a chance they can come through the RMRs. And it's really tough. In terms of picking out, like, who's the star player, like, I thought Cello was fucking, like, sick, but I don't know. I haven't watched any Brazilian CS for a while, actually, because I will just never understand it. So there's not much point, is there? Plus, it's always casted by fucking Gowlers, so I'd rather have my ears fucking molten lava poured into my fucking brain through my ear hole. So, but yeah, I don't really know. I mean, like, I've always been like Cello for me was always like a fucking good player. And yeah, that's right. They did bring in Zach as coach. Well remembered. Yeah, FNX isn't there. So it's basically Fallen's the only last man standing from the original like roster now. So I don't know. But like this for me, I don't know. Cautious, shaky hand. Put it this way, where they're at now, 34. They can be knocking on the door for top 20. I'll say that. Feels like it's an improvement. Step in the right direction. Guess we do this as it's a follow-up to another video. So Heat, as we talked about previously, was starting to have financial problems, and you know they owe Jack some back pay and some other stuff that's been going on, and they were like, but it's not our fault. It totally is, and we didn't mean it. Totally doesn't matter. But anyway, obviously at that point, once the money dries up, the players are going to leave. So you can see here that Body and Afro both bailed. And so I think Heat is just a dead team, essentially. As a brand, I don't even know how, you know, what they ever really achieved. Was sort of there. Once the money dries up, that's that. Part of the great market correction. And that's it. It's all over, unfortunately. So you can see here, we had some amazing moments together, such as qualifying for Pro League and winning many tournaments. Many's probably overselling it. We were also a couple of rounds short of qualifying for the major on 2 occasions. Sounds like failure to me. But every good story has an ending, and this is why we were parting ways with 2 wonderful and talented players. And I reading between the lines, I think the Og's toast. I think it's done. Because unless they get some sponsors, I mean, what's the point in keeping the players around when you can barely pay them, if you are paying them, and you don't have 5 players to enter into a team. So Afro went to LDLC after leaving Heat. You can see this makes him playing alongside Amanek, Afro, Snobling, who he even looks like his nickname. Great player. And Brooksy. Look at Amanek in that picture as well. Trundling along. So, I mean, probably a good pickup for LDLC. So, go on, have a thumb up. Nico in free agency. No, not that one. Leaves the bench after 7 months. Obviously got benched and made all of that fucking Hunden nonsense. And still see people on Reddit to this day saying absolute dribble. Like, no, Hunden proved that they all knew, and Nico confesses that you haven't even read any of the fucking case notes, have you? You're just a fucking cretin. But Nico basically one of the players that's kind of slipped through the cracks once he got benched by OG, and he's been on the bench for so long now. And it's so hard, like, because The problem with the great esports market correction is you're not going to get any of these smaller orgs popping up anymore. Bedroom orgs are going to slow down now. Thank God, in a way, but not good if you're a player that's like wanting to still play, still good enough to play, but the opportunities just aren't going to be there for you, unfortunately. So he did stand in during this time, if I'm right. He did stand in for Astralis talent, it was. But apart from that, it's been pretty much barren since the major RMR, where, of course, they didn't qualify. It was pretty disastrous. So, yeah, what do I think about Nico? 24, Danish rifler. Never really impressed me all that much, frankly. I don't think he's, like, an amazing player. But I would say, like, honestly, instead of the cycle of sacrificing a young Danish player on the altar of Zipniks, I'd rather take someone who at least has been in the situations that he's been in and bring him in. And, you know, he can hook. Obviously, he can't go to Astralis because I doubt he ever wants to see Hunden again. But, you know, it's a shame that that's the way that's gone, because he's the type of player that should be getting that opportunity, because Astralis are just not good at developing talent, as we've seen time and time again. So I don't know, unfortunately, what it looks like for Nico. Probably going to end up in some bullshit fucking team doing not a lot of much. And then, you know, everyone's going to be like, well, pity for Nico. And then, you know what? That's it. That was actually the Rostermania, if you can believe it. Just crazy how lackluster it was. I really thought there was going to be movement in some of the, you know, big teams, but there just wasn't, you know. Like, I thought FaZe might have made a change. As I said at one point, I thought maybe they might have switched up Brokey. Maybe Rain, you know, Overdrive was like, Rain is going to be out their team for the rest of the year, and FaZe are signing a Russian player, but I will not tell you which Russian player. It's like, what? Why would they insist on a Russian player? Why would that be the defining quality? So I thought FaZe might have made a change. I could have seen Liquid making a change, but realistically, like, the biggest talking points are like outsiders bringing in, getting rid of Norbit, bringing in Chiron, Cloud9 bringing in Buster, and Na'Vi bringing in Nipple. Everyone else is pretty much like maintained the status quo, and I don't know what that means for the scene overall. And obviously the Astralis changes, I guess, but, you know, Astralis aren't even a top 10 team at the moment, so not even a top 15 team, so barely even think about them these days. And it just shows you, you know, there's just no resources out there anymore. There's just no money, you know. People aren't willing to spend and take the risk as we head into an uncertain year. And here's what we're going to get this year. There's not going to be one dominant team, like, for real. I know we had a bit of an up and down and back and forth on the tail end as FaZe fell off and weren't able to close out the Grand Slam. But you are not going to have a dominant team this year. It's almost going to be every single tournament is going to be won by a different team. If you look at the top 20, like, put it this way, 20th is Soar, 19 Sprout, 18 Astralis, Bad News Eagles 17, Nip 16, Big 15, Ents 14, Spirit 13, OG 12, Vitality 11th, Fnatic 10th. But you've got teams like Mouse, Outsiders, Furia, Liquid, all high up in the top 10. Nah, the top 20 is meaningless, in fact. You just know there's like 20 good teams, and that's it. 20 teams all capable of beating each other at various points, depending on if they get the break of it or who's having what. You know, no teams particularly impressed me even at the start of the year. So, I don't know, guys. It feels like it's a real fucking just bleak, like, not very exciting time for esports as a whole. And I don't really see which way it's going to go. So that's Rosterpression.